Good day and welcome back to Baldfather Bets, guys. We are going to run down the Super Bowl 60 between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks, being played out in Santa Clara, California, and we're ultimately going to give you our pick against the spread for that one. First, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel, notifications on, so you know we post, and then just interact with the content. Had a lot of fun this year. This is our second year doing it publicly. You guys have really helped grow the channel. Never want to charge for these picks, just want to continue to grow. You guys are a big part of that, so please like the video, comment on it, share it around, anything you can do to help us grow. Okay, so let's start out just kind of looking at these two teams overall. So we'll start with Seattle Seahawks, number 1 team in DVOA this season, number 7 team all time in DVOA. They are number 1 offensively this year in points per play, and they are number 1 defensively in points per play allowed. So a little bit of a all-time team when you look at it. Definitely pose a big threat for New England to try and take down here. If you add in special teams, well, they're excellent there too. Shaheed's probably been the best punt returner and punt or kick returner in the NFL. Michael Dixon, probably the best punter in the NFL. And while I wouldn't say Myers is the best kicker in the NFL, he's excellent and he's in your upper echelon. Patriots a little bit different. 9th in DVOA this season. They are in the top 5 in points per play, both offensively and defensively, so they're tied for 5th offensively. They've come down as the playoffs have gone on because they've been so abysmal offensively throughout the playoffs, and then they are 4th in defensive points per play allowed. So very good as well, not quite up to where Seattle is. One thing I'm just going to talk about right off the bat, a lot's been made of the strength of schedule for the Patriots. It is historically weak in the NFL. However, the key words there, I think, are in the NFL. I don't make as much of strength of schedule on a individual year basis in order to discredit a team in the NFL as I do in college. I do think it plays into being able to predict next season in terms of the number 1 team from a division gets the hardest strength of schedule versus the team that finished at the bottom gets the easiest strength of schedule. But I don't ever use it to discredit how a team performed that season at the end of the year. There's a much smaller gap between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Seattle Seahawks than you would imagine. It's not the same as when you're looking at like the Northwestern Wildcats and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Much, much different. So you're not going to hear me talk about that to discredit New England a whole lot in this video, so I just want to get it out of the way early. On the other side, Seattle went through a gauntlet. They played in the NFC West, which was the most impressive division in football this year. You could argue a little bit for the NFC North, but I would say no. Seattle is, like I said, the 7th best team of DVOA of all time, and the Los Angeles Rams were the 9th. I think what Seattle did, they've proven themselves. There's a reason that they are favorites here, and they deserve to be. So let's talk a little bit about that. Line is at 4.5. Line came out at 4, got bet up immediately to 5.5 at some places, but within a 24 to 36 hour window, this line settled at 4.5 across all books. I have not seen anywhere else outside of 4.5 at this point in time. So all major books at 4.5, and then anything I've seen offshore has also been at 4.5. If you've seen something else, please let me know in the comments below. But at the time of recording this, everywhere is at 4.5. So that's kind of the just basics of team structure out of the way. How do these teams look just on paper? We'll get into individual matchups of offense and defense, but I quickly just want to touch on the coaches. Mike Macdonald in his 2nd year as head coach with the Seahawks, previously defensive coordinator for the Ravens and the number 1 overall defense, obviously has number 1 overall defense by my favorite metric, which is points per play defensively. I think he's not number 1 in terms of like overall yards allowed, but I think in overall scoring defense, he's number 1 as well. Mike Vrabel, first-year head coach for the Patriots. Can't believe the Titans fired him. And the Patriots, I think, in terms of scoring defense, are number 2 in the NFL, but in my favorite points per play, they're 4. And then obviously Josh McDaniels in this offense, along with Drake May, have been quite potent, and they've taken advantage of the opportunities that they had. And we're gonna come back to that. So let's start with Seattle having the ball and the Patriots being on defense. Okay, we're going to look at it from an overall standpoint. We're really going to break it down into Seattle running and Seattle throwing. Okay. Seattle this year offensively have been extremely potent, especially in taking advantage of big plays downfield and then taking advantage of big plays at the run game. I talked a little bit about this for the Rams game, but in a short 2-game sample size like you have here, I actually think that Charbonnet being out and Kenneth Walker getting a majority of the carries is probably a better thing for that team. Kenneth Walker is the better running back. Over the course of a season, you need multiple backs in order to take that load because running back is probably one of the most difficult positions on your body to play in the NFL, and you just play too many games. Over a window like this, where they're getting a full 2 weeks of rest in between the games, you want Kenneth Walker taking a majority of your snaps. The play that's gone viral where he jukes the Rams defender out of his shoes, those are the type of plays that he can offer, and he has that game-breaking ability. Jackson Smith-Njigba is top 4 wide receivers in the NFL. I think the conversation right now is clearly between Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Smith-Njigba, and Puka Nacua. He has some of the best route running and footwork that you're going to see, as well as probably not as good a hands as Puka, but almost as good a hands. He's phenomenal. He's been one of my favorite players in the NFL ever since he came out of Ohio State. Big believer that Ohio State wins the 2022 national championship if he isn't injured for most of the year the way that he was. From a offensive line standpoint, Seattle pretty strong at tackles, especially their left tackle Cross. Their weakness is going to be interior offensive line. They're okay at left guard and center. They have an absolute liability for him at right guard, and we're going to come back to that as well. Outside of Smith-Njigba, while Shaheed has game-breaking speed, he hasn't actually been all that great in the pass game. Where he can definitely get you is being an extra man in the run game on end-arounds and then gadget plays. And then at the tight end position, Seattle's serviceable. They're definitely serviceable. Again, we're talking about the 7th best team of all time in DVOA. So when we talk about Seattle, you're not going to hear me talk about a whole lot of weaknesses with this team. Defensively for the Patriots, excellent in the secondary and improving every single week. Gonzalez, Jones, and Carlton Davis have played close to perfect football in the playoffs, outside of maybe Carlton Davis a little bit getting hit with those pass interference calls against the Texans. And on the secondary, on the safety side, those guys are cleaning up and they're in position as well as anybody. Defensively on the line, you're looking at the strength of their team being an interior defensive line. Not anything that's going to wow you coming off the edge, but it's not like they're bad. They're in the Super Bowl, right? So they're not the defensive ends that, let's say, the Houston Texans are going to come at you with, but they're not out there just getting worked every play either. Having a healthy Bob Spillane has been massive for them. One of the things that the Patriots do very well is they don't allow big plays, and they don't allow big plays for 2 reasons. The first is the excellent secondary that I just talked about, so they don't have busted coverages, and the second is they tackle extremely well. 4-yard gains don't turn into 40-yard gains, and Bob Spillane is a massive part of that. He's one of the best tackling linebackers in the NFL, and he's side to side much quicker than you would think. So how do we see then it going when the Seahawks have the ball? Let's start with them running the ball, okay? So we just talked a little bit about Walker, and we talked a little bit about the strength and then the weakness of the 2 teams. The weakness of Seattle is the interior offensive line, and the strength of New England is the interior defensive line. I do not expect a ton of running room up the middle for Walker. That doesn't mean that Seattle's not going to test it. You have to. You can't just let it sit there and and not test it at all. But when they do, I expect them to get beat off the ball most of the time at the line of scrimmage, and I expect New England to assert their dominance in that area. So what I think you're going to see is you're going to see Walker bounce these runs to the outside, which he does as well or better than any running back in the NFL. Think about the first touchdown that they scored against the Rams on the 3rd and goal, where he comes up and that bounce move that he has to the right, that's my right, your left, right side, and then he ultimately scores the touchdown. Walker is as shifty, lateral, and has as much lateral quickness as any running back in the NFL. But that is what they're going to have to do and able to execute runs. So then that's where the Bob Spillane matchup comes in huge. Because Spillane behind that interior line is going to have to roam with Walker and ultimately bring that tackle down. If those are 2 and 3 yard runs, okay. If Walker's bouncing to the outside and he's breaking off 10, 11, 12 yard runs, then the Patriots are going to have a problem. The issue for Walker here is, like I said, the Patriots tackle so well. So it isn't just that then Spillane's going to be coming with him to the outside. The Patriots have corners that are not afraid to make a tackle. Gonzalez is as physical in the run game as you'll see. Carlton Davis is physical in the run game, and Jones is very physical in the run game as well. So we don't see this as going to be, Seahawks can't get anything on the ground at any point in time. But it's going to be tough sledding for traditional up-the-middle run game. They're going to have to be a little bit more creative with their outside runs. And one thing that I do suspect you're going to see, they are going to bring Shaheed on end-arounds when they give Walker the ball off the middle to give a fake, to give people just another thing that they have to look at to try and open up some space up the middle. And then I like them to give Shaheed the ball on an end-around at some point. And if the Patriots don't read it right, that could be a massive play for the Seahawks. So be on the lookout for that one. Seahawks passing the ball. We talked about this Patriots secondary and how excellent it is. One of the things I think that you're going to get is you're going to get Christian Gonzalez on Jackson Smith and Jigba. I have that as a massive win for the Seahawks. As good as Christian Gonzalez is, he is no Patrick Surtain. I know a lot is made of the bomb to Cortland Sutton that took place early in the game against Denver. That wasn't really on Christian Gonzalez. He thought he had safety help over the backside, you can tell. So it looked like a miscommunication. There was another play, 1 or 2 drives later, though, where Christian Gonzalez got beat again. Jackson Smith and Jigba's footwork combined with his speed, like I said, Christian Gonzalez is not Patrick Surtain out there. So if they're one-on-one often and you're not giving bracket coverage, you're not giving help, if Sam Darnold has time, that's going to be a win for the Seahawks. I don't see Shaheed giving this secondary too much trouble. I think they're going to be able to contain him. I do think that from a tight end perspective, you'll have some openings there, but it's not like it's going to be something that's game breaking. Okay, so let me come back then to Sam Darnold having time. Darnold is not a mobile quarterback. So I do believe that the Patriots' ability to get pressure up the middle in his throwing window is their key to ultimately winning this game. Because when they don't, I don't think the Seahawks tackles, especially Cross at left tackle, is going to give up a whole lot of pressure coming off the edge. The pressure coming up the middle is more disruptive to a player like Darnold than it is coming off the edge, because he needs that clean window to throw, because he is very accurate and he has a great arm. If he doesn't have that clean window to throw, then that's when you're going to start to see issues for Darnold. So how often, especially at the right guard position for the Seahawks, do they get beat off the ball in a passing situation? and how often does that impact Darnold's ability to get a play downfield? Because one of the things about these big shots and these deep shots that the Seahawks take, they take time to develop. And they have had the advantage in most of their games this season to where they've had the ability to let that develop. When they haven't has actually been when they've gotten in trouble and lost games, or when they've needed their defense to have an otherworldly performance in order to win. Think about the Monday Night Football game they played against the Texans. I think that's who it was, where the Texans recovered a defensive strip sack fumble touchdown on Darnold, and they still lost the game. And the Seahawks even covered the spread. It was crazy. So if Darnold has the time in the pocket, and I'm not talking about getting sacked, I'm just talking about time to step up in the pocket, isn't having to move to one side or the other, taking away one side of the field, then the Seahawks should be able to move the ball with ease in this game. The problem for that is you're looking at the biggest strength of the Patriots defense versus the biggest weakness of the Seahawks offense, and quite honestly, probably the only weakness of the Seahawks offense. So I don't necessarily think that you're going to get a ton of points here from the Seahawks offense. I do believe that there's enough here that the Patriots can do to muddy the waters in terms of not giving Walker clean lanes up the middle, and then not giving Sam Darnold a clean pocket to throw from in the center of the pocket, in the center of the field, where his offensive line is. If he's going to get a clean pocket, it's going to be rolling a little bit, which then oftentimes is going to shrink the field to where that excellent secondary of the Patriots can take over. Let's talk quickly about Sam Darnold and potential turnovers, and then we're going to flip over to when the Patriots have the ball. Okay? So, Sam Darnold, he's been perfect in the playoffs through 2 games. Hasn't turned the ball over. Been excellent. Not what we previously seen from Sam Darnold in big games. So, what gets Sam Darnold into trouble when you watch the film is if the pre-snap read that he sees does not match to what the defense ultimately plays. That is when Sam Darnold gets in trouble, okay? You're going to see the Patriots exploit that a little bit, but you're playing a big risk-reward there, okay? Because I'm going to give an example when the Seahawks and Rams matched up in Week 13. The score was 30-14, I think. Seahawks had it 3rd and goal, and he has one-on-one coverage on Jackson Smith and Jigba on your guys' left. On the left side, it's a post kind of middle route. Over on the other side, Kobe Turner for the Rams lines up on the right side of his offensive line and then drops back into coverage over to the left. Sam doesn't see that, throws a pick. If Shaheed doesn't take the punt back, that's probably the game sealing, because it was the 4th quarter with like 9 minutes left, right? That's probably game right there. Rams win that division, and ultimately that game that we just watched in the NFC Championship game gets played out in LA and not in Seattle, which could have been the difference. Those types of things are high risk, high reward, okay? Because you're going to line up someone out of position who has to come back into position, which takes time. If you ultimately are able to execute, Darnold has shown throughout his career he has a problem with that. I expect the Patriots to do that to an extent without taking away what is their biggest strength in terms of giving up big plays. They're not going to take themselves out of position to where all of a sudden they give up a bomb to Shaheed and he's wide open and you're like, well, how did that happen? And it was, well, we tried to get too cute defensively. But I expect them in enough situations, especially in 3rd and long, to disguise coverages to try and get that turnover force from Darnold. Because one of the things about Darnold is when you get one, the wheels start to come off a little bit on him. So that's something to watch in this game as well. Okay. Now, Patriots on offense, Seahawks on defense. Let's just overall look at the units again. So, Patriots offensively, they're a good unit. They have been excellent at big plays downfield through the passing game. They've been a good running team this year. They run duo blocks in the run game more than anyone. We're going to come back to that because that's going to be huge for this game. They have Ramondre Stevenson healthy again, so they also have two backs in Henderson and Stevenson, but they have them both healthy, whereas Seahawks don't have Charbonnet, but like I said, I think that's almost a plus for the Seahawks. And then on the outside, Stephon Diggs, not Jackson Smith and Jigba, but still a very good wide receiver. Booty, who is one of your better downfield threats in the NFL. He's going to get himself a bag this offseason. Mac Hollins is the number 3, and then Henry at the tight end position. Formidable. At offensive line, they're a little bit weaker at the tackle positions right now just because of Will Campbell's injury. It's clear that he's not fully healthy, and the fact, hey, he is a rookie. He is a rookie, so he's still making some rookie mistakes. If you were to say they had the biggest weakness for them on offensive line, it would be at left guard, but that's more in terms of the run game than it is in the pass game. As a pass unit, they hold up a little bit better than they do as a run unit. There is no weakness on this Patriots offensive line like the right guard for Seattle. I don't want to make that clear. Drake May, going to finish probably second in MVP voting. As accurate of a downfield passer as you'll see, as lethal of a downfield passer as you'll see, and statistically as lethal with his legs through 2 years in the NFL as almost any player. I'm not saying he's as good at running the ball as Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick. I'm saying the statistics will tell you he utilizes his legs as good as anyone who's played 2 years into their career. And you can see it. Think the drive that ultimately decided the game between the Patriots and the Denver, where the Patriots kicked a field goal to go up 10-7. Think about the 3 third downs that they converted with May and his legs. I don't necessarily think that they are anything that's going to scare you from a speed standpoint, but the Rams weren't necessarily a speed unit either, and they had success against the Seahawks defense. McDaniels is one of the more creative offensive minds, does not come from a McShanahan tree, comes from his own tree, has been with the Patriots on and off since 2006, knows this team, knows what he wants to run, and he and May seem to have a really good rapport with each other. On the Seattle defensive side, they are as formidable as any unit in the NFL. Like I said, number 1 in defensive points per play. They are excellent across the board. I wouldn't necessarily say they have a weakness. If you were to potentially say one, it's Woolen when you get them matched in one-on-one. The issue here is that Seattle tends to run more zone. They came off of it against the Rams, but I don't expect them to do that here. And we'll talk about that when we get into Patriots passing. Clearly, the absolute stars of their unit are up front. Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams. Byron Murphy, one of the better second-year defensive tackles I've ever seen, especially at his frame. His frame is actually one of the things that he uses to his advantage. There's a McVay quote that's coming out right now that they absolutely wanted Byron Murphy. They would have traded up to get him. It's clear as to why. He's like a poor man's Aaron Darnold a little bit. Byron Murphy's 6 foot, 305. Very similar build to Darnold. No one's Aaron Darnold. He's maybe the best defensive player to ever play in the NFL. But Murphy is very, very good. And if you can't have Aaron Darnold, that's kind of the next one you would want in that same similar style of play at defensive tackle. At linebacker position, they're solid as well. They are fast, they are aggressive, and they hit extremely hard. You saw it throughout the year this year. Reminded me a little bit of that San Francisco 49ers defense in 2022, where it was almost a little bit of a shell shock for even NFL teams to play them at how hard they hit. Devon Witherspoon is probably the most physical corner that you're going to find out there. He was that way when he was at Illinois, and he's been that way ever since his time in the NFL. Okay, so let's look at Patriots running the ball. I don't think they're going to have much success. So Ramondre Stevenson has really taken over lead carries for them. And that's been a lot with regards to every down back situation. And New England has been okay at getting, I would say, 3 to 4 yards per carry. I don't think they're going to get that here against Seattle. Seattle is an excellent run defense. They're going to run their duo blocking. The Patriots are going to run their duo blocking scheme, okay? The best defensive tackle in the NFL against duo blocks in the run game this year was Byron Murphy. One of the reasons is because he's 6 foot, 300 pounds. So he can go underneath your offensive linemen who are trying to get a double on him. I think you guys have probably heard this used a lot. He does the knee drop move. So he drops down to one knee and he powers up from that. That doesn't work for you if you're 6'5". It works for him because he's 6 foot and because his center of gravity and center of mass is so condensed into one area. He's as strong as the offensive lineman he's going up against while being at a size advantage. I expect him and Leonard Williams to give this offensive line fits when it comes to that duo blocking scheme. One of the reasons the Patriots have done that is, like I said, that unit actually holds up better in pass protection than they do in straight run protection. The Patriots will utilize a fullback in their run game. That potentially is going to give them some advantage, especially in the routes where you have the offensive line going one way and the fullback going the other way to try and open up some room. But it's going to be tough sledding. What's going to ultimately decide how successful the Patriots are on the ground in this game is how many of the plays turned into 30 and 40-yard gains, 20-yard gains. Because most of these runs, I'm telling you guys, are going to be 2-3 yards max. They're going to be getting stuffed a lot. So if they run the ball 20 times in the game, can they get 3 of them to break for big gains? Because if they can, then that changes your overall yards per carry at the end of the game, and it looks like, oh, you ran the ball okay, even though you were getting stuffed and stuffed and stuffed and stuffed and stuffed. Okay? Henderson could be the key for that. Henderson has game-changing speed. He is a game breaker, and on the runs where he gets the ball, are they able to get to the second level? Because he is a make-you-miss type player. Even though he hasn't been getting a lot of carries, I expect that they know in this game that they're not going to have traditional success running, and they're going to have to try and break one here or there, okay? But overall, guys, this is going to be difficult sledding for the Patriots trying to run the ball. So then what about passing? The Seahawks are going to play a lot of zone. The Seahawks traditionally play a lot of zone, and they went away from it against the Rams, and I understand why they went away from it against the Rams. The Rams are not necessarily a speed unit at wide receiver, right? Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Jordan Washington, Cody Parkinson at tight end. You're not thinking, oh, burners, right? Excellent wide receivers. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, as lethal 1-2 combo as you can have in the NFL. Speed isn't where they get you. So in Seattle's mind, they said, look, we'll go man-to-man against these guys, and we can run with them, and that'll give us better coverage. What they didn't realize was Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, and even Parkinson, they worked them with their route running and their footwork. Okay, these guys, the Seattle corners weren't getting beat because they couldn't keep up with them. They were getting beat because they were getting beat off the route immediately. Well, or down in the route if that's the way the route developed. I do not, while New England isn't, outside of Booty, isn't going to wow you with the speed either, you can't play man-to-man and turn your back to Drake May. Because unlike Matthew Stafford, Drake May will win this game with his legs if you give him the opportunity to, okay? So I expect that Seattle's going to spend most of their game in zone with some man sprinkled in. When they do go man, that's going to be your big play shot to Booty on the outside, okay? That big play that the Patriots got against the Texans, that was against Derek Stingley Jr. As good as Devon Witherspoon is, as good as Woolen is, neither of those guys is Derek Stingley Jr. So they can get those plays even against the best corners. Does the offensive line hold up in order to be able to take the shot And then does May hit it, given how accurate he is downfield? And does Booty make a catch like he did against the Houston Texans? That was as picture perfect of a play as you can get. Now, when they're running zone most of the time, that's where you're going to be looking at Diggs, and you're going to be looking at Henry, and then potentially some Matt Collins to find the soft spots in the zone and then let May hit them. The problem here is I do expect the Patriots to have issues, not like they're going to have in the running game, but I expect them to have issues time to time in pass protection. May holds on to the ball longer than any quarterback in the NFL, which leads to sacks and also leads to sometimes turnover-worthy throws. I know it looked like the Patriots held up okay against Denver's pass rush in the second half of that game. That has nothing to do with their offensive line. That has everything to do with the field conditions not allowing Denver, the pass rushers, to get their footing underneath them and slipping and sliding all over the place. I want you to think about that first Super Bowl that the Chiefs and the Eagles played in 2023 Super Bowl 2022 season when they played out in Arizona, and that field was completely slick and sliding all over the place. And ultimately, the Eagles, who broke the record for number of sacks in a season, didn't record a single sack in that game. The MVP of that game for the Chiefs was the Sodfather, who messed up that whole field and turned it into just complete slick, wet paint out there, right? With all that snow coming down in Denver, that's exactly how it was for Denver in terms of getting their footing, and that was the MVP for the Patriots holding up against that pass rush. You're going to see that we're playing out in Santa Clara. Conditions should be fine, grass field. You're going to see the Patriots get beat in terms of pass rush on several plays. Two things. Does May get by it and ultimately allow him to use his legs, or ultimately allow him to use his throw and the run ability, which is what separates him from other players? Because if that's what happens, then you're looking at a win on the Patriots side here. Or does the sack get home? And does the sack get home either sack or cause a turnover? Because offensively, with me not seeing the Patriots being too good on the ground here, that's what's going to determine the game for the Patriots on the offensive side of the ball. So really, I think this game comes down to two things offensively and defensively for each team, and we're going to talk about special teams in a second. When the Seahawks have the ball, when Walker bounces to the outside on those runs, is he contained at 3 and 4 yards, or is he breaking 10, 12 yards consistently? Does Sam Darnold have time to hit Jackson Smith and Jigba on routes that take longer to develop? I think those are the two things that are going to decide it for Seattle. For New England, it is ultimately, does Drake May have the opportunity to use his legs, or does the pass rush and get home and cause sacks and turnovers? And in the few opportunities that they're going to get man, do they hit a big play to Booty downfield? That is what I see deciding this game from an offense and defensive standpoint. Special teams, I give a nod to, the Patriots have been good special teams, don't get me wrong. Seahawks have been phenomenal. I give a nod to Seattle. I'm a little bit worried about the Patriots having a rookie kicker being in this big of a stage if it were to come down to that. But he's been solid, and the Patriots have been solid on special teams. A Vrabel team is going to tend to be pretty solid in that area, right? So then, what do we see? What's our pick? You could look at this in two ways. The first way is you could look at it as that the Seahawks team is an all-time team. They would cover this line from a model standpoint. They have the number one PPP offensively, number one PPP defensively, and then the seventh best team of all time by DVOA. That's one way to look at it, and I would understand that as well. The other way that you would look at this is, in the analysis that I just gave you, I don't see either of these teams having a ton of success offensively. And when I see that, then I look at a team getting plus 4.5, and I like that. Because if the game is going to be defensively, then I want the team who's getting the points, because maybe this thing comes down to a field goal, which is kind of about where I see this thing coming down to. Low scoring, field goal wins it for either team. So we're going to be on the Patriots. We're going to take them plus 4.5, and we're going to do that for 5 units. And then sadly, that is our last play of the 2025 season. But you guys have been amazing. Let me know in the comments what you guys are playing. Let me know also what prop bets you guys are playing. So, fun fact, this is the only game throughout the NFL season where there tends to be more prop bets than just the regular game itself. Usually the regular game itself will take anywhere between 40 and 50% of a book's handle, and prop bets are taking between 50 and 60. There's opportunity there for you guys, especially the ones of you who do your prop bet research, to hit something big. So let me know what you're betting on. Let me know what you're taking in terms of prop bets. Let me know if you got a final score prediction for this one. Really interested to hear it. Thank you guys very much. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday, and let's go Pats.